All right, welcome everybody. Hello, we are live. Did you guys like my opening music at all? It's music I was playing on my podcast. Uh, and I have another show that I've been developing, so I usually run it with some. When I do the other show, I run it with some uh, video and things like that. So, but I just thought I would run the music by itself tonight just for fun. Hello, everybody. I see a lot of you are in already. Uh, The Thing King just came in. Hello, chat. He says, or he or she. I don't know if the Thing King is a he or a she. I don't know. I think king. No, king is a he. You can't have he. You can't have she kings. Well, in this day and age, I don't know. Maybe. Anyway, hello everybody. Um, Tonight, I wanted to do a show tonight, and yes, I did have short notice again, but I just felt like this morning I really wanted to have a show in, and I think what I really want to deal with is we're kind of at the end or near the end of one particular thing here with the Jesse Lee Peterson scandal. And for a while, I was kind of out there by myself. We had Fabian way back when that was getting in a tussle with Jesse. But as far as this situation here, it was me. It was my blog. It was oldschoolus.com and blog posts that I was writing for a while. Some of you may have seen those, some of you have not. And it's taken a while. A lot of people have come forward after I came forward. Others have come forward and done a lot of the work. There's been people helping background and in the foreground in terms of getting this story out there. And right now, the story is out there now. As of, I don't know, probably yesterday. What was it? A couple days ago, maybe, when David Pacman, who's very liberal, but he's got a very big audience, and he put a fairly short video out about Jesse and his experiences with Jesse and things like that, and he got a ton of hits on it. So there's other things that have been coming out. I mean, Church Militant was a huge one along the way. Obviously, they put out the video that I was on there, Samuel was on there, Martin was on there, Robert, Armand, Fabian was also on there. Jim Valerio was also on there doing a video. A lot of people were on there, so they did theirs, and then Anthony came in with the Manosphere 21 Studios. He came in and did his thing and got it out to another audience, and then others started to pick it up, and it just kind of went from there. It's been a pretty wild ride. I mean, you can imagine, it's been a very wild ride, and through it all, there are people who understood. There are people who believe from the get-go. They knew that. I mean, I had known Jesse for 30 years, worked with him for 20. Martin Francis had lived with Jesse for 30 years and was probably the biggest supporter that Bond ever had. Jesse treated him like dirt afterwards, but others as well. Armand was known. Robert Santner was a house manager at Bond. The people who knew best, many of them knew, and they left. Some of the people that worked at Bond are now gone. Many of the people who worked for Bond, knew Jesse the best, are gone. The people who know him least and are more like the followers and things like that, those are the ones that seem to be giving the most non-believable, because they don't really know us as well. And they are kind of hooked into his message like I was. They were hooked into Jesse as like another father figure to them. And it's like, you're attacking my father. Don't attack my father. I'm coming after you. So a lot of these people are, been, they don't get it. They don't understand the dynamics of what happened. And, so I understand that. Some of them are hostile. Some of them have bad manners, but some are friendly and just want to ask certain questions. So I think today maybe marks a few things for me, and maybe that's why I wanted to be on. I think I feel like I've done what I can do to tell my story and kind of push it out there. I think the rest is happening by inertia anyway. There's not a lot more I can do to push the story forward. I've already told my story. I wanted to be here for you, maybe for any of the new people that had questions or anything like that. Um, and I wanted to also answer, if I could tonight, a little bit of the spiritual side to Jesse's message, which I think is quite dangerous. It is not Christianity. It doesn't bear resemblance to what you would read in the Bible. Maybe one reason why Jesse calls people Bible thumpers that disagree with him, and he's somewhat hostile to the Bible in general. Um, there's parts of the Bible he will not read ever that have to do with sexual sin. He has reduced sin. This is what I get. Maybe this is just a warning for you guys that are new or whatever, or real Jesse fans or whatnot. Jesse has reduced sin to only mean anger. And then nothing else counts. Sexual sin doesn't count. Adultery doesn't count. Murder doesn't count. Nothing counts except anger. The problem with that is, even if he wants to stand on one sin and just say it's anger, then he failed that test himself. You certainly can't love your brother by enticing your brother into a sexual situation. For myself, before I got involved in this stuff, I had thoughts along the way. Some of the story, the molestation at a young age and things like that. So I got messed up and traumatized at a young age, but I'd never acted on any of that stuff. And I wanted to overcome that stuff. And that's what I thought Jesse was helping me do, but he was actually doing the opposite. So I want people to understand that even that test of loving your brother, is something that Jesse failed. And his claim to fame for people, what gets a lot of the young guys, is he reaches young guys who have lost their father, or don't have a father, didn't have a father. I didn't have a father. I had a physical father in my life, but he was pretty messed up. My dad was pretty messed up at a young age. He had a family that was kind of crazy in a lot of ways, a lot of his family, I'm sorry to say. And they were a rough and tumble family. He didn't grow up very well. He didn't have a strong background. Then he went into World War II, saw some of his friends being killed in front of him and things like that. He was on an aircraft carrier in the Pacific Ocean, and he was getting dive bombed by Japanese Zeros, dive bombing his ship, kamikazes, and killed some of his friends and things like that. So he had a really rough time. Never knew my dad at all, really. Never really even had a real conversation with my dad, probably in my life, unfortunately. So there's a lot of young guys like that. I understand that. They want a father figure, and people like Jesse know that, and they use that. I do want to say, for anyone who's gotten help from Bond, I am not here to tell you that anything that you got that was positive was wrong. Anything that you got out of it, if you learn to forgive, if you learn to speak up better, if you learn to pray better, that's great. I'm glad for you. I could say a lot about that, but I don't want to go negative on you. That's fine if that worked for you. I will say, in general, just to kind of make a general statement, the people that were around Jesse longer started to see more of the corruption of him. So some of the people that come in and out of there, and they were able to get a few things or get some things from the radio and move on, good for you if it worked. But again, the people that he had contact with on a longer basis, I don't think fared very well. I would look at most of us and say that most of us ended up more corrupt after the Bond experience than before the Bond experience. That's just the truth. I already have a lot of comments. Wow. Okay. I think I'll take some opening comments. This is fairly open. I've been doing a few long, shows lately. I did a 3-hour this week with Carlos, otherwise known as Gabar, from the Fit, what is it called? Fit podcast, Be Fit. I Am Fit podcast. I got a lot of hits on that. That was great experience. I did a 2-hour and 40-minute interview type of podcast with Anthony from 21 Studios and Joseph Enders from Church Militant. Joseph Enders is the guy who produced and interviewed the witnesses that you saw in that. Did a fantastic job. So I've done some long stuff here, but hey, Saturday night, I didn't even intend to do a show. I don't want to keep you guys all night. I'll try to go through things as quick as I can. And again, I feel like we're in a transition. I feel like I've I'm not quitting the fight. I'm still in the fight. I'm doing whatever I can because I don't believe that Jesse should be able to call himself a Christian minister and have a Christian church that he gets tax benefit from and plays the Christian minister when it comes to making money, but then denies it when he's running from this situation and tells people, oh, I'm just like you. Don't call me reverend anymore. You can't have it both ways. And he really needs to step down. And I've said to him, he needs to step down. And further than that, I think he needs to disband Bond. It's a corrupt organization. Bond and Jesse are inseparable. It's not the way the organizations are supposed to be. There's supposed to be accountability. There isn't accountability at Bond. There's basically Jesse and almost no other accountability. And that's wrong. And that should not be allowed to go on. So Jesse wants to go out and whatever. Okay. I mean, I don't think he's in the clear anyway, honestly, with all the stuff that's going on. But assuming he was in the clear at some point, he wants to go out and tell people whatever. He thinks he has a message that he wants to tell people. It ain't that hard. You don't have to hire a bunch of people. I mean, it don't cost too much to flip on a computer and do a show like I'm doing, okay? You can practically do a show by yourself and take in no donations. You don't need to take in a bunch of donations, counseling and all that kind of stuff. Again, I do want to let you guys know, if you're in Jesse's church and you want to keep doing this stuff, you want to hang around, you want to go down with the ship, it's on you. I just want to give you some warnings tonight and maybe say a few things to make you think about it. Is this really a Christian church? If you don't want a Christian church, that's fine. If you want a guru situation or whatever, then I guess that's on you. But I'm really offended by somebody calling something a Christian church that isn't a Christian church, that doesn't even believe in the 10 Commandments. Wow. You know, I mean, we had a guy on, I almost took there was a guy named Sal that was on, maybe he's listening again tonight. And we were doing the show the other night with the I Am Fit podcast, and he called in and I don't want to rip Sal or anything. He's a young guy and I'm not trying to hurt the guy or anything, but by the way he was speaking, it was quite obvious that he was basically saying everything that Jesse says. All his thoughts as far as what he believes or everything that Jesse says. 10 Commandments don't mean anything. There's only one sin, and it's anger. And the other one he said was, and I want to get into that a little bit tonight if I can, was that what was the other thing he said? It had to do with what? Oh, he said you have to separate the man from the message. We can get into that too a little bit, because I think that's an interesting one too. There's this idea, this is going to be Jesse's last stand as far as what he's going to try to get away with. I don't have to watch Jesse much anymore. I know Jesse, and I've already heard, you know, a little bit of stuff that he says, and he's going to say, he already did say, you got to separate the man from the message. So in other words, the message is good, but the man is faulty. Okay. I would say the message in some ways is good, with some weird stuff that Jesse throws in. Jesse kind of screws up almost every message that he gives and goes too far with it. Calls women evil. He fosters a division between the races while acting as if he's bringing the races together. Same thing with men and women. Same thing with married couples and married families. A lot of things that he says, he actually has a way of kind of sabotaging at the same time. It's very interesting. It's very diabolical. And if I could get anything across, don't be fooled by a man's ability to make you laugh or say things and have funny sayings that you can repeat to your friends and repeat his sayings all over the internet. You know, having the ability to do things like that does not make you a decent person or somebody that you should follow in terms of being a minister. That's all I'm going to say about that. Okay, so I want to probably get into this stuff a little bit deeper, but anyway, I do want to say thank you to everybody who's supported me, and even those of you who haven't and ask good questions and things like that. I'm thanking you too, in a way. Even the people that are mean suckers, and a lot of the Jesse people are mean people. They profess love, but yet don't act with any kind of love when they interact with you. Some of them, it's a very strange thing. But I want to thank you guys too, because it makes me stronger. So Not that I necessarily like it, but in a way I like it because it makes me stronger. So I appreciate you guys too. All right. What I'm going to do before I go any further is I'm going to try to maybe just go through a few comments if you guys might have any questions or comments or anything like that. So let me see what I can do. All right, here we go. Top Oracle says, some of us always knew Jesse was an evil, grifting snake oil salesman, race baiter. Well said. I don't know how many people realize that, or how many people realize that more, that they keep watching him, and as we're talking about him, they can kind of see more stuff. But if you saw stuff in the beginning, God bless you. You know what? I'm going to even tell you guys something. When I first heard Jesse on the radio, it's weird, but I immediately knew he wasn't really real, that he was aping a guy named Roy Masters, Roy Masters was like his, what do you call it? The guy that kind of set him up and in his church and everything. And he kind of followed Roy Masters, but he was kind of aping a lot of his language and things like that. I even knew it when I first heard Jesse on the radio, but my intuition of what I could see immediately was blocked very quickly with my voice in my head, my language. And especially after meeting Jesse, he was very charismatic, and he got me liking him, laughing, and all this stuff. And he kind of brought my guard down, and then the rest was kind of history. He become my counselor. Thought he was counseling me away from same-sex attractions and things like that. No, he wasn't. So that was very different than what I expected. So yeah, I do want to say that I saw something right away, and maybe if I can pass on little things to you guys that can save you guys decades of trouble. Okay. One would be, watch what you see and what you know, and stand on it if you can. Stand on what you know. I don't care if nobody else sees it. Stand on what you know. And if you know it, a lot of people ask for, while this situation is going on, they say, where's the proof? Where's the proof? And they ask for a ridiculous amount of proof from us and zero against Jesse. I get that. But in reality, if God is speaking to you and the Spirit is there, and if you're listening, you will already know things right away. You don't need like extra. It's like, do you believe in God? Where's the proof? Where's the proof? Where's God? I don't see him. I don't see him anywhere. Well, if you're paying attention, God is there, and you can see his works everywhere. It's obvious. And you believe him in that way because you see it. So if I could say anything to you, please just trust yourself. I did not trust myself as a young man. I lost the trust in myself. I didn't have a strong relationship with my father. I had resentment towards my mother. I was ripe to be, even before the molestation. I was thinking about this the other night. Even before the molestation, I was already messed up before that. I always kind of go back and tell you guys about that. That wasn't the beginning. The beginning was the not having a relationship with my father to start with. Therefore, I never developed a relationship with God, you could say, until I started to get that later. But I didn't have the relationship with him, and I had a bad relationship with my mother. So I had a screwed up family situation from the get-go, and that allowed corruption to enter my life. That allowed me to be attracted to the wrong kinds of things. I don't even mean in the beginning just same-sex attraction. I mean evil in a certain way. Even the neighbor boy that got involved with me and basically molested me, I could see he had a problem with his father. His father used to beat him. His father used to get drunk and was into porno and would beat this guy. He was a friend of mine, this guy, and he would beat him. And this guy he got really messed up at a young age. And I knew that this friend, hanging out with this friend, there was something wrong with this guy. It's obvious there was something wrong with him. But yet I had a strange attraction to evil. And the attraction to evil that I had pulled me into something that ended up with me being molested. Same thing when I saw Jesse right away. I knew intuitively there was something about this guy that was fake. And yet I allowed that to be, my shades to be drawn down, so to speak. And I allowed that to kind of just, drop. And then once he kind of played me, I fell into that. And he brought me into stuff that the dark part of me wanted to do to begin with, not the light part of me, but the dark side of me, the sin part that Paul talks about in the Bible. The sin part of me was attracted to sin. So I know that everybody goes through this to some degree or another. It's just a matter of degree. Some people, I was reading a man's, somebody sent me who might be watching the show tonight. His father wrote a manuscript that was just mind blowing what this guy went through. He eventually found meditation. He found Roy Masters and meditation. And he was able to turn his life around beautifully. But he went through hell. He went through sex, men and women, drugs, all sorts of drugs, well beyond what I ever took. Went into psychedelics and all sorts of stuff. And he went into all that world. And he was really, when he went into the drug world, he got a touch of the world of evil, that's not just thoughts in your head, but it's actually real evil. And I saw a taste of that too when I was a young man. It scared the hell out of me. It almost scared the hell completely out of me. It didn't scare the hell out of me, but it scared the hell almost out of me. I wish it had scared the hell out of me. But so I know you guys understand this, that everybody's going through something, but what you're going through, we're all going through the same thing in one way or another. It has to do with evil. And we need to become objective to that evil. And we need to ask God in whatever way we do that, whether it's silently or just ask him, whatever it is. We need to ask him for his help, and he will help you. As a young man, I said on the show before, I even learned how to meditate. This is before the Roy Master stuff. The Holy Spirit just showed me basic meditation stuff, and it was great. Roy Master showed a technique later that was very useful to me. I still use it sometimes, and it's very useful. But just closing my eyes and praying in the Spirit alone helped me a great deal as a young man, because I was a mess and I had nobody in the family. My parents I couldn't really relate to. I was kind of alone, like a lot of you probably are when you're waking up. All right, I'm probably talking too much, right? Well, hopefully that was helpful for you guys. I didn't expect to say that, but a lot of times I get on the show and don't expect to say stuff, and then I do. All right, let me go through more here. Let me see here. I want to go through a few more comments before I go any further. Are there any else ones here? There's a lot of hey comments. Great. Great. Okay, I just want to make sure I'm not missing anything right off the bat. Jubin said Chris left Bond because of the crap storm, right? I don't know all the details on Chris. I do know that he left recently. What was that, about a week and a half ago? When the stuff started coming down, apparently Chris got out, okay? Other people got out too. A lot of the people that work there think about that. If you're kind of a hanger-on or somebody that watches Jesse from afar and you think you know what's going on, just take a look at the people who worked for him, who knew him best. Look at all those people that got the hell out of there. And some of the people that lived in the house, the Bond house, got the hell out. Thank God. Okay, so let's see. Jubin says, Paul, you guys have blown the lid off the band. A Bond, excuse me. Thank you. God did that. We did whatever we did. We just, I came forward because I felt like I needed to. I didn't feel courageous about it at all, by the way. Other people probably felt the same way. They just kind of felt like they needed to. And we did what we needed to do. And there are others, I'm sure there are others who Jesse has tried to do stuff with sexually or even done stuff with. I don't know for sure. I said I'm sure. Let me say it this way. I don't know for sure, but I believe there are others. And some of those people are in the background now, and they're just choosing not to come out for whatever their reasons are. I think you should come out if you're dealing with a guy here who is not who a lot of people think he is. He's actually a evil man. I hate to say that because he used to be my good friend. It almost hurts to say it, but he's an evil man. And he may be through and through evil at this point. He's very sharp, wily. He's intending to ride this thing out. He doesn't have any shame. So don't expect him to just say, oh, okay, we got a lot of videos here, I'm leaving. If that was the case, he already would have left a while ago. He has no intention to go. He makes a lot of money at what he does. He gets a lot of boost at being considered the guru, even though he tells people I'm just like you. His whole thing was telling people I'm just like you, but also telling people that he didn't have anger and had no sin. And that made people want to follow him to figure out how he did it. I can tell you, there's no way that stuff could be true. You can't be doing the kind of stuff that this guy's been doing and have no anger and have no sin. Again, I think he's pretty good at faking having no anger. But I believe what he's doing is he's very good at getting to people first and getting them to get mad. And then he just points at them and says, see, they're mad. And they are, at that point, the person is considered not credible, right? Because if the only sin is anger and somebody's getting mad at Jesse, that makes that person wrong and Jesse right. And therefore he goes on his way. But he's very good at knowing how to get people mad. Watch him. He just drops things on people to get them angry. And then when they react, then he flips it around on them. All right. Let me see if there's any others here before I move on. Mind Over Energy says, yes, it looks like the lid has been blown off of the can. Yeah, I think it is. And things may be moving into a different phase right now because I think this thing is now out there. So thank you for all of you who have got this thing out there. That's much, much appreciated. But I don't think it's going away anytime soon. I think Jesse wants it to be, and he's going to continue to ignore it. But I think in many different ways, this thing's going to come to bite him. And at the very least, we have to know this, even if this guy just is so wily that he stays doing his stuff and he convinces a bunch of people that he's the great guru. Hey, there is eternal justice. You can fool people, but you're not going to fool God. God knows what you've done. God knows what you've done. And if you work at Bond, God knows what's going on there. I would consider that if anybody else is listening who works there or goes to Bond, good luck. If you think you're going to get something out of this, you're going to have to pay the piper somehow. You can't be involved with evil and not be touched by evil. Okay, let me see if there's other ones here. Why is Hake still there? Mutato said, why is Hake still there? Hake is there because he feels like he owes Jesse his life in a way because he was like a weak guy. And Jesse with Jesse's backing, he turned into like a so-called tough guy, supposedly. And so, like I said before, if Jesse was to melt down, then Hake would melt down. So he thinks of him as a father figure, and he's very loyal to him because he thinks he owes Jesse his life. As I said before, I know James Hake. I used to know him. If anything, I think now he may be acting tougher, but his innocence that he had when I first saw him, I don't see the same innocence that I used to see in James Hake. Something's missing. All right. Yeah, I don't know what Hake is doing, so I'm not claiming that Hake did or didn't do anything physically with Jesse, as far as sexually. I don't know. All right. Let's see. That Girl. I remember a show called That Girl with Marlo Thomas. I'm giving my age away here. Anybody else remember That Girl with Marlo Thomas in the early 70s? Very good show. Who cares, right? The younger people are like, That Girl? What's That Girl? That Girl says, I'm totally blown away. Has Jesse confronted this yet? No. I stopped watching him a while ago. I don't blame you. Jesse was actually losing his audience before the internet age. He was losing his existing audience. It wasn't that many people that used to come, but he gained a new audience with all of this beta, lesbian stuff and all this, kind of like white power kind of stuff that he's kind of pushing. I'm not against white power or whatever, but I'm not against, everybody should have their own power, right? I'm not like for white power over here and then I'm against another race or something. That's kind of crazy. But Jesse, when he got a new group of people, and I'm kind of trying to talk to you guys a little bit tonight too, because the younger people are very bright people, but they don't have the same moral background. They haven't gotten the same teaching. And they don't have the same, they will put up with more moral relativist, weird, there's no sins here except for anger kind of stuff that older people just don't go for that. They don't go for that. And therefore Jesse can't hold. If you go to Bond today, I bet you that almost everybody's a younger person now. Never used to be like that. It was a mixed crowd. It was also a mixed race crowd. Jesse lost the black audience. He's probably very few blacks that are at Bond right now, my guess would be, because there used to be a very good core group that kind of came over from the Roy Masters. He kind of handed Jesse a core group, but Jesse had a way of offending his black audience. And I don't just mean by telling the truth and all this stuff. He's got some issues. Okay. He has some issues towards other black people. He has some issues towards women. It's just something I see. And it's something that comes out when he talks. You can tell the spirit that people are talking about if they are really trying to help or if they're putting people down for laughs or what have you. You can tell the difference. All right. Let's see. Yeah, there's people guessing about Hake and whatnot. I'm not gonna jump into that, guys. Okay. The Thing King says Jesse quotes the Bible when it suits him. Yes. And even when he twists the scripture of the Bible to make it apply to his logic. Yeah. If you read the Bible, Jesse's very big on, calls people Bible thumpers. I guess last week he said, everybody's a Bible thumper now. Well, maybe people are starting to get onto him. The Bible is traditionally been used. It even says that in the scripture. It's used as a way to rebuke to some extent. The Bible by itself is not what works. The Bible in conjunction with your spirit inside that rings true when you see something or read something in the Bible that is true, then those two things come together and they have a match. That's what works. So, but just to throw the Bible out and say that, don't read the Bible, don't be a Bible thumper and this and that. Jesse fears the Bible because he knows that the Bible says things like, no homosexuals are going to get into heaven. You can't be homosexual. You can't be a sodomite and get into heaven, among other things as well. But that's one of them. So you can't. There's things in the Bible that say never fall into sexual sin or cause a brother or sister to fall into sexual sin. It is a worse kind of sin. It is a sin of the body. It's the worst kind of sin you can have. Your spirit is enclosed and housed inside your body, and you are defiling the temple. To put it simply, you are defiling the temple. It's a very serious sin. But again, Jesse doesn't want people reading that kind of stuff because he doesn't want people thinking about that kind of stuff. It kind of blows his whole thing out of the water. If you notice that he tries to make sin the only thing and then says stuff like, what was that thing he was saying? The man, don't worry. Now that people are onto him, he's saying, separate the man from the message. If you're a true Christian, you don't separate the man from the message. The man is the message. The man is the message. You don't separate the things. In the Bible, it talks about if you're going to be a pastor, preacher, a assistant, what do you call that? Can't think of that, like a deacon or something. There's certain criteria for that. You should have one wife only, not multiple wives. You should be someone who doesn't drink strongly. You should be this and that. You should have a good temperance. And obviously you should be somebody who's not a homosexual groomer or predator. Hello? Is that really that hard to figure out? It is hard to figure out if you don't read the Bible. It should make common sense too. Why would you say it's not a sin to help somebody commit adultery? Right? I mean, that's a horrible thing to do to someone right? You don't want to try to help somebody get into a life like that. And again, I'm not saying that I was not at fault. Yes, I was at fault. I did these things with Jesse. But certainly as a minister, you don't get people into this stuff and then say it's not a sin, it's no problem. It's really crazy. All right, let's see. Yeah, okay, Mind Over Energy said, welcome that girl. No, Jesse has stayed silent to the public about it. Yes, he did tell my family, he did talk to my family, my wife and my son about this. He did apologize to us, but never went any further with it and then continued the same behavior. He apologized to us. Then later I find out he's fondling Samuel while telling him to close his eyes, meditate, and all thoughts are lies. Don't listen to any thoughts. Okay. I mean, so how sincere was he when he apologized to us? Probably not very. Probably not very. Not at all. Jubin says Jesse goes after broken men to prey on them. Yeah, he's not praying with them. He's praying on them. Tyson is in the chat. All right, Tyson, I'm just going to throw you up here without even, I'm praying that I'm throwing his stuff up here without even reading it first because I have that much, I shouldn't say faith, have faith in no man. But I have a certain trust that Tyson's not going to say something off the wall. Tyson says, Hake knows if Jesse falls, Hake falls, and Hake takes pride in streaming from a nice studio. Yeah, and one of the guys that I know from Bond who quit, didn't want me to talk about this stuff, said much of the same. The way that Jesse gets these guys, these young guys, or older guys too, is he strokes your ego. He gets you to, think about how wonderful you are. He did it with me. Oh, you're one of the smartest white men on this side of heaven. Okay, I bought into that stuff. Oh yeah, I'm pretty smart. I wasn't that smart. I wasn't smart at all for getting involved in what I got into. How smart could I have been? So he plays your ego. He plays Nick that works there. I think still working there. Nick, if you're listening, man, be careful. Don't think you're going to get something out of this. It doesn't work that way. You're not going to get some gain out of this without having to pay the piper. And I would not be playing with this right now. And some of these guys still live with Jesse. Nuh-uh, not good. All right. Let's see. I'm still going here. That girl says far out. Man, you sound like John Denver. John Denver was, anybody know John Denver here? Used to be a country western singer. Take me home, country roads. John Denver used to say far out. So that girl, I wonder if you're in that generation of that girl. Maybe you are. Interesting. That girl says far out. I feel duped. I knew something was off because about Jesse, but I had no idea this was going on. This is another thing I was trying to tell people. There are all sorts of little things you might see along the way, but if you allow your spirit to let you see them, you don't need to see that many things. The spirit will warn you and you could be gone. You don't need to see much. But if you're a dummy like I was, then you have to see a lot of things. And I would see this and it didn't make sense. I would see this, it didn't quite make sense. There's a lot of stuff that didn't quite make sense. Okay. Now I'm warning you, if you see stuff about Jesse, it doesn't quite make sense. There's probably a good reason for it because it doesn't make sense unless you understand that there's evil in there. It's not something that happens from good. Okay. I'm warning you now. I've told you. Okay. I've told you. Hake makes fun of people that stream out of their house. Talk about ego. Well, I think we're having more effect than Hake is right now. And I've got a small little studio here. I'm not ashamed of that. But we're probably having more effect on people in a good way than Hake is. Hake is ignoring the actual story, living with the corrupter, sucking up to the corrupter, no pun intended. So he's really in no position to be, he's not doing anybody any good right now. He'd be doing people good if he actually came out and said what he knows. He got to know something. If you're living with Jesse, you're close to Jesse, you got to know something. The guys that are around Jesse, that have gotten corrupted around Jesse, that know about, what some of the things that are going on, stuff. And for whatever reason, you're holding back. And because you feel like you owe him in some way, whatever, you're not going to tell. But all you're doing is protecting evil at this point. All right. Top Oracle. I'm going down here still. I hope you guys don't mind me reading some of these. I'm sure you don't mind. The I Am Fit interview was great. Thank you, Bella. That was a fun interview, and Carlos did a fantastic job. So right on to Carlos and I Am Fit. You go to oldschoolus.com and find that interview. I linked to it there. You can find it there. I thought he did an excellent job. Okay, that girl, I'm reading a lot of your stuff here. I feel like I'm working for you. I was told, just kidding. I was told a while ago by someone close to Bond, but it wasn't until your exposure that it really hit home. Yeah. Well, I'm glad. Thank you. Thank you, Tyson. You like that interview too. And Fabian's in the group. I saw Fabian earlier here. I knew Fabian would be around somewhere. Okay, I'm going to read your stuff here, Fabian. Sight unseen. See, I have a certain amount of trust in you, my friend. Fabian said, the problem with Jesse's version of forgiveness is you have to go and do it. And that's, again, man trying to save himself when freaking that's not what Jesus taught, the forgiveness that has to happen. Yeah, there's an element of will in his forgiveness. Now, if it works, great. If you go to someone and do something where you have to feel like you have to face them, if you feel like you have to face them and do it and you get free from that, I'm all for you. I'm not knocking that, but I don't think that is the one size fits all for everybody. You can forgive certain things by just being shown something in your heart. And I'm not telling people they need to be cowards and don't face it. If you do, if you need to face it, face it. But it's not the only way. Even Jesse himself told me, I don't even believe his forgiveness story anymore, but even he told me that he forgave his mother in his heart and then went and talked to her. So take that for what it's worth. That was out of the horse's mouth. I don't even know if it was true or not at this point, but I'm just saying, even he said that. By the way, Jesse was pushing another meditation. This gets into the spiritual thing, but Jesse was pushing Roy Masters' meditation for a while, but not giving Roy Masters credit. I have a link in the description to Roy Masters' 7-minute meditation. It's quite good for anyone who's interested. Jesse was pushing Roy Masters be still in no meditation for a while, but didn't give him credit. Roy got ticked off about that and told him to stop doing that. And then he started doing his own meditation. But when Jesse was pushing Roy's meditation, he even admitted to me that he didn't even do the meditation. Now, he may have been doing some other meditation or whatever, but the one that he was pushing, he wasn't doing. Okay, I'm just telling you. All right, let's see. Top Oracle says, okay, let's see what you got to say here. This is Ho from Phoenix. Longtime adversary or caller to Jesse. It's just a matter of time before Jesse triggers an anti-black mass shooter. Well, I mean, yeah, he's not obviously going and telling people to shoot people, but you can get people mad at black folks the way Jesse does by kind of, highlighting stuff. And believe me, I understand black people or young black men, for a lot of reasons, are much more likely to kill other young black men or kill black on white than the other way around. I get all that. I'm certainly wouldn't deny that for a moment. But there's a way you can handle this stuff. There is a way you can bring the races together. There's a way you can tell the truth. You're not going to get everybody. You will offend some, but there's no need to be throwing stuff out on purpose just to tweak people. Thank God for slavery. Knowing that the average person hears that has never heard you before, and just you're tempting a person to get angry without even trying to get into a conversation with them. It's kind of ridiculous. That kind of stuff. Jesse had, honestly, I remember there was an article, if somebody could look this up, if they're good at looking stuff up on microfiche or something at the library. I couldn't find it online because it's too old, but I'm telling you, there is, if somebody who's in Bond could find this, there's a book that we used to have in Bond of like stuff that Jesse would do in the media. We used to have a blue binder, and then there was a green binder in Bond. It's probably way back in the back. It's probably still back there somewhere in the way back of Bond. Somebody could look back there and find it. And a lot of it is like old interviews that Jesse did. And we back then a lot of it was print interviews, and we would print these things out and then put it in a binder. One of the first interviews Jesse did, even way back then, he was pulling crap. He had an interview. He did an article in the Inglewood Sentinel. The Inglewood Sentinel. This probably goes back to about early 90s, maybe around 1991 to something right in there. No further than that. Very early 90s. And Jesse had a quote. It was a big blaring headline with Jesse's picture underneath it, and the headline said, 99.9% of black men are immoral. 99.9% of black men are immoral. Now, look, I know as well as anybody that there are problems with black men, big problems that need to be addressed in a better way. And that's what I hope that Bond would do, by the way. It's one of the reasons I helped Bond for so many years. But to make statements like 99.5% or 99 point, was it 9 or 5? It was 99 point something. It was either 99.5 or 99.9. It was 99 point something. Maybe it was 99.9. I don't know, but it was 99 at least 0.5. I'm going to go take it at least that far. Somebody could probably find that article that's still there. Why do you say stuff like that? Why do you say that women are evil flat out? There is a whole psychological thing, and there are spiritual truths here. There are truths about women coming from man, and Eve, biting the fruit, and women can be more susceptible to listening to the devil and lies. That's often true. That's generally true, I think, much more than men in general. But that's not the same as it does. You can't take it as far as saying women are evil. It's taking a certain truth and then making a funhouse mirror thing out of it and making it go too far to start, drawing a problem between men and women. If you are married, you want to keep marriages together, and you're telling men that women are evil and don't let them teach your kids anything and this and that. Jesse would get most of us men that were involved in bond that would tempt us to distrust our wife. I'm not saying there are times where you could have a bad wife or you could have a wife that's distrustable, but he egged that kind of situation on and created what they call enmity, as the devil said, between the man and the woman. Jesse created additional enmity between men and women, between black and white. That's why we never really got anywhere trying to unite the races with truth instead of dividing them with lies, as Jesse said that he was doing, rebuilding the family by rebuilding the man. Families around Bond were crumbling. Guys were living into old ages, living in the Bond house and paying Jesse rent and that kind of thing. No, that wasn't good. So anyway, that's what I'm doing tonight. I'm kind of like, I don't know how much longer I'm going to tell my story here before I kind of switch gears, but I wanted to, at least with this thing blowing up this week the way it is, I wanted to be available for you guys and just to talk about this stuff a little bit and talk about some of the spiritual stuff that I think is so crazy. Hopefully some of you guys will see it. Let's see. What about Ermias? Well, Ermias has left Bond. That's all I can say at this point. Ermias is a friend of mine. Ermias has been a friend for a long time. And Jesse tried to turn Ermias and me away from each other as friends. And did a pretty good job at first because I was a dummy and I fell into it. And Jesse would bring me up and bring Ermias down because I played ball. Ermias didn't play ball with Jesse in that way. And because I played ball, just like whoever's playing ball is getting things from Jesse, right? I was getting things from Jesse and Ermias was not. Ermias should have been a spokesman for Bond a long time ago. I've told him that several times. Very talented guy when he came from Lansing, Michigan, many years ago. He was originally going to take over for me, and I was kind of moving my way out. I was going to start a business years ago, but Jesse kind of talked me back into staying. I wish I would have left then, because when I was first going to leave, it was actually before we actually had any sexual contact. I could have left unscathed, but maybe this was meant to be to wake up other people, I guess. I think in some ways it was meant to be. But I've known Ermias for many years. Ermias is a good guy. Most people that work with him professionally really think highly of him. Anthony worked with him, 21 Studios, for a while because Jesse was speaking at the Manosphere and things like that, and always spoke highly of Ermias, very professional. So Ermias took over for me as a PR guy, did a great job, really knows how to put events together. Yeah, a good guy. But he doesn't really want to get involved in this stuff. So I'm leaving him out of the equation. So that's fine. Everybody's is on their own, but I can tell you he is not. I think it's fair to say, I don't think Ermias would mind me saying that he doesn't support what Jesse's doing. He knows what Jesse's been up to. He's heard enough. I'm not saying he saw anything himself, but he's heard enough. He knows me enough. He knows some of the other guys well enough. He knows Jesse's been up to no good, and he sees the kind of person that Jesse is. So he's not confused about what's going on at all. All right. Should the king said, should Jesse stop doing his radio show too? I think the whole thing should be disbanded. Personally, I think it's a crock. I mean, it's not real. It's a whole organization based on Jesse with no oversight, basically. Okay. So whatever you want to make out of that. If Jesse wants to do a radio show, he could, but how many employees you really need to do? Just fire up the podcast and do a podcast if you want. Do a show like this if you want to. So yeah, are people getting help? Yeah, I think some people get help, especially people that don't hang around too long. If they hear a few good things, forgive your mother, pray, things like that. There's you can certainly get help. Of course, if people read the Bible and actually went to church, a church to begin with, they could get a lot of help too. But most people don't read stuff like that anymore. Most people don't meditate. At least Jesse was teaching a form of meditation. I don't think his necessarily is the most effective way. I think what Roy Masters was teaching was much more on point. But I don't know, so again, if people get help from him, that's great. But I certainly wouldn't stick around because you're really getting help from the devil, in my opinion. All right. Tyson says no more fallen state unless Nick took over that too. LOL. Yeah. I don't think the fallen state is, I'm not trying to take credit here, but I was the main one that convinced Jesse to start the Fallen State show. We started doing fundraising for that show many, many years ago. And I thought Jesse was great at interviewing people. And I thought it was better that people saw him so they could kind of see the twinkle in his eye when he's talking to people instead of just seeing him on the radio. And so I really kind of pushed that for a long time. I almost regret it in a way, but I thought he would do real well. I thought he was a really good interviewer. I come to find out he's not nearly as good of an interviewer as I thought because he's not really honest. To be a good interviewer, or in my opinion, you've got to have some honesty. And Jesse, you can tell when he interviews homosexuals, there's no honesty there. The homosexuals are more honest than he is. Okay. All right. Tony Bruno says Ermias left because of this. Yeah, I think it's fair to say Ermias knew what was going on. I don't think Ermias would mind if I said that. I think it's fair to say that. It is fair to say that. That's right. Okay, let's see. Thank you, Tony Bruno, for saying that. The 21 Surfer is here too. Great. Let's see. That girl, the car wash guy, his name is Samuel. He's the guy that came out after my stuff while I was still writing articles about Jesse. I found out about his stuff. Pathetic, horrible stuff. The car wash guy said he left after he told him what happened. Yeah, he did. He told Jesse what was up. And there was some other stuff. Jesse tried to keep him close like the mafia does, and it didn't work. That girl says, I really respect Ermias. That's great to hear. Yeah, good guy. What happened to Chris, the white guy? He white. Perpetual Grind said that. Anyone know what happened to? Well, someone answered that earlier. I don't know if anyone can answer that. Maybe somebody knows. I don't know. I just know that Chris saw what was going down and what was coming out, and he got the hell out. That's all I know. If anyone knows more than that, you know more than I do. But I never really knew Chris anyway. I'm from the old school. I was from, the guys way back when who kind of helped build all this stuff. But then I wasn't involved recently. He said, who is Ermias? Ermias is Jesse's PR guy for many, many years. Did PR for Jesse and put on a lot of great events and things like that. Jubine says, I'm going to get you up here, Jubine. Forgive your mother so God can give you cult speak. Wait, forgive your mother so God can, I guess you mean forgive you. Yeah, I mean, again, if you truly forgive your parents, you can be opened up to God's love. I'm not knocking that. You can be opened up to love through forgiveness. Even Jesus said, forgive us our trespasses, as we forgive those who trespass against us, and he even said, he didn't necessarily say go and forgive, but he said, if somebody's holding something against you, go and let them get that off their chest, right? That's what Jesus said. I'm not saying he wasn't telling people they couldn't go to forgive either, but yeah, it can be your mother, but Jesse tended to make everything about forgiving the mother. And when obviously fathers need to be forgiven as well. And fathers can hurt their children very much so. So, he's got a weird thing about that. Okay. What else here? I'm working through some things here. Maybe this is good in a way, probably because it gives me a chance to talk to you guys because again, I don't know how many more I'm doing where I've already told my story and so on. So I might be moving on to a new phase. I don't know what that phase is going to be. I'm definitely going to be uncovering a lot of corruption and things like that. I'm going to be doing stuff in my own area here, which is going to be applicable to you guys too. And I'll be involved in this as long as I need to be. Whatever I'm needed to do, I'm happy to do. So I just don't know week to week. But anyway, it does feel like one chapter is maybe closing and maybe the next one is going to be opening up soon. So that's the way it feels to me. Raphael, here we go. I don't know what he's going to say here, but I'll put you up here, Raphael. I see homosexuality the same as lying, gluttony, stealing, anger, and other sins. Jesse is not perfect, just like none of us are perfect. Well, I'm going to disagree with you, Raphael, because there are degrees of evil here. Some call the 7 deadly sins and things like that. Anger is a very serious sin. Don't get me wrong, but so is adultery. So is murder. So are other things. Gluttony, I wouldn't put in the same category. And it's not just so. And if you understand, Raphael, I don't know if you understand the whole story. So just you understand it here. We're not just talking about a guy. Let me take this off now. We're not just talking about a guy who has a sexual problem and had some situations that happen with men. That could happen. It's understandable. And if you repent from that, God is going to help you out with that and you can move on. What Jesse has done from, I think, way back, best I can tell from way back, he's been grooming men along the way for sex and then going after them. And the ones that kind of have a weak spot for it, like me and others, he'll take it further. And then if they don't have that thing, they haven't been molested or something like that, then he kind of moves on. But he's kind of checking probably almost, most, if not all, I don't know all, but a lot of the guys that come through there. And then he's using weird spiritual stuff to pull this stuff off, as like telling me, trying to get, counseling me to overcome homosexual thoughts, feelings, things like that, and then helping pull me into it. Then telling me once I did it, that as soon as we did it the first time, I was born again. And he kept telling me that throughout the years as we did things together. That's really another level of evil there. You're not just falling into something, you are bringing people along and using spiritual tactics like spiritual words and things to get them to fall. Same thing with Samuel, or, telling Samuel, hey, close your eyes and meditate. And meanwhile, when he closes his eyes, don't listen to any thoughts. All thoughts are lies. Don't worry about any of that. And then starts touching this guy's genitals. Really sick stuff. Telling another guy way back when, after the guy falls asleep, and wakes up and Jesse is, stroking his thing. And then telling the guy, when the guy was like, what's going on here? And Jesse's saying, well, this is what fathers do. So I've said these before in other programs, but some of you are new here. So I'm reiterating so nobody misses these things. This is beyond falling to some sexual temptation. So no, you're not right about that. If you know the whole story, gluttony and what I just described are two different levels here. There's a level of evil here and intent that it's kind of like, there's a difference between manslaughter, second-degree murder, and first-degree murder. Okay. You can get fried for first-degree murder because you intended it. You plotted it. You set out to do it. It wasn't a heat of passion thing like manslaughter. So you're talking about different degrees of crimes here. I'm going to call this a moral crime. So there's different degrees of moral crimes here, Raphael. So I do not agree with you. Hopefully that enlightens you. I don't know if you knew that, but I'm trying to tell you something you might not have known. All right. I'm going through some more comments here. We hit an hour mark. I'll still keep going a little bit with you guys. And I didn't even get to a lot of the stuff, but this is the way these things go, right? Let's see. Yeah. Well, G. Fran says, Jubine, for him to say, forgive your mother shows he hates women. Well, I do believe Jesse has a hatred of women that he never dealt with. On the other hand, I'm not going to go as far as saying forgive your mother necessarily means that he hates women because of that, because you may need to forgive your mother. You may need to forgive your father. You may need to forgive a molester. You may need to forgive a lot of people, especially your parents, though, because those are the ones that you grow up with and they have the most impact on your life. So it could mean that, but not in all cases. Okay, let's see. Top Oracle says Jesse, race baiting lies, stereotypes, and lies must be stopped. I believe that he should not be allowed to have a Christian church and be pulling this kind of stuff. That's nothing biblical about that. And anybody that reads the Bible at all can see that, or anyone that has common sense should see that. Shouldn't have a Christian church. That's for sure. Okay. Raphael, taking advantage of men is wrong. Right. Let's see. I'm scrolling here, guys. Yeah. Where did I say it was not wrong? No, you didn't say that, but you put them all on the same level. They're not on the same level. Hopefully you see that by now, Raphael. I'm still scrolling through comments, so maybe by now you've seen it. Wow. I'm way behind on my comments. I am way behind, guys. What am I going to do about this? Bond hates women, blacks, and logic, says Jubine. It's too bad because a lot of us put years of time into Bond. I mean, I did. Ermias did. Martin Francis did. Fabian did. And the cause was right. We have needed to rebuild the family by rebuilding the man. We have needed to unite the races with truth instead of dividing them with lies. We need those things more than ever. We need to come back to God, obviously, number one. But, I don't know. It's like the devil, I guess, in a way, used these things and pretended to be the champion for these, for doing these things, and then wasn't. We were fooled. That's all I can say. All right. Let me get through here. Raphael, a sin is a sin in God's eye. No, they're different degrees too, man. If you got to be able to see that, we got to use some common sense here. Overeating is not the same as pulling another man into tempting him to commit adultery. I mean, come on, please. Okay, I don't want to take our shots at. I know some people are taking some shots at you, at Raphael. So I don't want to take shots at you, man. I'm hoping that we can, give you some truth here that will help you. That's all. Thoughts on White History Month? Why is that his battle to take on? LOL. Bella K said that. Well, I don't see the point of some of this stuff at this point. I really don't. I get that white people feel like they're under siege and because they have Black History Month, now we got to have White History Month. I think it's kind of silly. Okay. I don't think you need any history month. You just have American History Month. Okay. Just have American history, whatever. I mean, obviously Booker T. Washington, George Washington Carver, Frederick Douglass, what was the lady's name that had the Underground Railroad lady? Forgot her name. I saw a great movie about her the other day. Very good movie. I wouldn't have watched a movie like that probably in the old Bond days because there's a woman and something wrong with women. So, but this was about this woman that was the Underground Railroad lady. And I'm sorry, I'm sure you guys are writing her name in down there, but we got so many comments. I haven't even caught up with you. But anyway, it's a very good movie that came out a few years ago. I really highly recommend that to watch that. She was quite a woman, inspired by God. People that say, Jesse used to say that women had to go through men to get to God. Now, if you say that women need to forgive their husbands in order to have God's love, I'll agree with you there. But if you're just going to say women need to come through men, why make it so vague like that? I don't understand that one. I mean, obviously, as I said before, women can pray to God just like men can. So why even throw that in there? Doesn't make sense. Anyway, so White History Month, I think, is kind of silly. I mean, we have great Americans of all, especially Black and white. I mean, yes, we have a lot of great white Americans, obviously, but a lot of great Black Americans. Not Sojourner Truth. I forget her name. I'm going to have to scroll to the bottom here just so I can see. Somebody's going to put her name in there. Somebody's going to put her name in there. The woman, the Underground Railroad woman. Does anybody got it? Let's see. I'm going to see. Somebody's got it, I'm sure. There's so many comments here, guys. I don't know what to do about this. It's like the other night. We had one night where I was doing a show. I think I was by myself that night too. And we had so many comments. I had to, like, the next day go through them and read them and everything. I'm scrolling like a madman here, guys. There's no way I can get to all these or anywhere near them. I'm sorry. Harriet Tubman. Bella Kay said Harriet Tubman was the Underground Railroad woman. This woman, Harriet Tubman, could not even read or write, but she saved so many slaves and got them out of the South up in as far up in north as Canada. And let me try to get that off now. How do I get this off now? I think, let me find it here. Raphael said that, and Bella Kay. So let me see if I can get this one off. There we go. But anyway, Harriet Tubman, Underground Railroad, check out the movie. It's a few years old. I highly recommend it. Very good stuff. They did another one on Dr. King I saw called Selma. Not nearly as good. It was more kind of politically correct and stuff. I didn't like it too much. And it wasn't as honest. They kind of made Dr. King. I have a lot of respect for Dr. King. I knew the stuff that he did sexually apparently was true. Cheated on his wife big time. But I do have a lot of respect for what he did as far as putting his body and life on the line for other people, and had a lot of great effects. So I got to give him his due for that. Wow. Let me, I got other stuff I didn't get to, but I want to get to all your guys' stuff. I'll go, if you guys want me to go a little longer, I will read a few more. So, you guys can let me know that. I don't even know where to start here because I was so far behind. Mind over energy. Let me know. I don't know if there's certain things that you want me to read. I feel like going from the bottom up now. I'm going to go from I got to get to the present right now because people are talking to me about stuff that I'm saying in real time right now. So I skipped the comments all the way to the present. Skip McMurray said, how can anyone have respect for MLK? Well, I understand, Skip, but like I said, I have respect for what he did in the civil rights movement, just like I'd have respect for a soldier who fought for the United States, but maybe wasn't the best person in their life, right? But they went out there and put their life on the line for others. So I respect Dr. King for that. I also respect Malcolm X. He had a lot of hatred for white people, but Malcolm X put his life on the line to go against the so-called Elijah Muhammad, the honorable, I would say the dishonorable Elijah Muhammad. Malcolm X put his life on the line because he exposed Elijah Muhammad, who was having sex with young girls from the church and getting them pregnant, and then sending them away to a house so nobody could see them. And Malcolm X exposed that and paid for it with his life. And Louis Farrakhan said that Malcolm X was worthy of death for what he did. And Louis Farrakhan, nothing ever happened to Louis Farrakhan, even though he egged that situation on that caused Malcolm X to be killed. But somehow he was able to walk away from that. So sometimes evil people get away. I don't know. Maybe that even happens to Jesse. I don't even know. He's very good at slinking, getting away, and he's very, very sly. So I don't know. I don't think he should, but that's not my thing to say in the end. I'll do what I can to see that he comes to some kind of justice. But ultimately that's God's call. God is going to ultimately do that. And even if he gets by in this world, obviously, as I said earlier in the show, he's not going to fool God. God's not. If I wasn't fooled by God when I first saw Jesse and could see the phoniness there, and other people can see it too, certainly God is not fooled by Jesse. So you need to repent, Jesse. If you're probably not watching this, but you probably have somebody watching this and getting back to you. I was one of those people who would look at stuff and get back to Jesse. I was an informer. Hake is an informer. Probably has other informers too at Bond. So I know what informers are like. All right, I'm gonna skip a little bit from the back end up and just take a few more comments if you guys are okay with that. But I know, hey, we got live too, right? And at some point, I'm gonna move on from this. Cindy Jones. with her cute little dog. Looks like the Okeo Taco Bell dog to me. Like the little Okeo Taco Bell. There was no younger people don't know what I'm talking about. There used to be a Taco Bell commercial. Okay, never mind. Now I miss what she said because there's so many comments that I'm losing the comments as they come up. Yes, Malcolm X found truth and spoke up. I admire Malcolm X. He didn't maybe end up perfect. Maybe he still had some hatred for white people. But once he went to Mecca and he saw that people of all colors were, worshiping together. And I know I'm not pro-Muslim religion or anything, but at least he saw the racist part, that he could see that people of all races could be good or bad. I mean, look, he went up against Elijah Muhammad, who was another black man. So clearly he was for justice in the end. And I respect that. All right. Let's look at a few more. If anybody has any other questions for me, let me know. Hopefully I've answered what I can. I mean, I've done, countless hours. So have others of live stuff, taking questions. Jesse hasn't answered a single question. That's just me. Forget the others like Martin who have answered stuff. Samuel's been out there, Armand, Fabian's been out there and things like that. So people have been out there and we've answered whatever. I've answered whatever I can. And you either believe at some point or you don't. And I can't convince you. I can't twist your arm. I can't, produce some exact evidence. Even if I did, you would probably, and if you really didn't want to believe, you would say, oh, you just doctored that. That was a deep fake or something. You just doctored that picture or whatever that was. So what can I say? Iraqi immigrant says, thank you, Patrick. We appreciate it. Thank you, Iraqi immigrant, for having an open mind. I appreciate that. I'm glad you're here, Iraqi immigrant, and not in Iraq right now. And I wish the best for you and your family and everybody. Sergeant Francis is here. All right, Sergeant Francis. I gotta bring in Sergeant Francis, sight unseen, just to see what he's going to say, because he's my buddy. All right, Sergeant Francis. Now that's the guy I admire, Sergeant Francis. This guy always wanted to be I'm going to leave this up too long. Martin Francis always wanted to have courage. So he backed Jesse Peterson because he thought Jesse Peterson had courage. So he kind of lived off the courage of Jesse for many years and decades. He found out that Jesse didn't have real courage, and he had more courage than Jesse did. He took Jesse on. You've seen some of his videos where he crossed the street and got Jesse freaked out and ran into the street and basically caused an accident running away from Martin. Martin has a lot of guts, and he's a lot of guts. So I really have a lot of respect for Sergeant Francis, otherwise known as my friend Martin Francis. Let's see what Sergeant Francis has to say. Just like you have respect for Donald Trump, even though he had 3 divorces and had homosexual affairs. Wait a minute. I don't think Donald Trump had homosexual affairs, did he? I don't think so. He still put his person out there and without even taking a salary. Yes, I agree with that. So I know we're going to get into a fight that will never end between you and Fabian about Donald Trump, and I have my issues with Trump too, but I do have my respect points for Trump, which are very important. I'm not going to let those go just because of other things. Although, on the other hand, because I respect him, I'm not going to be blind to major faults that have happened with Donald Trump. Okay. And we know what some of those issues are. Don't need to get into them right now. But thank you, Sergeant Francis. Let me go. I'm going to have to go to the end and back for a few here, guys. Sorry about that. I probably missed some great stuff in between, and I really apologize. I try to get to the stuff all. If I can't get to it tonight, I'll be scrolling tomorrow, looking through that, trying to answer people or whatever. But I really appreciate you guys, man. This is like a lot of comments, a lot of support, and it's really overwhelming. So I really, really all of us appreciate you guys, not just me, but we're doing a certain thing here now that hopefully is right now. A lot of people are now being privy to what we knew before. And I hope to God that I already know that a lot of people have been helped by this. Even in the beginning, when I was putting out articles, I could see people contacting me and saying, wow, I'm so glad. They're shocked, but in a sense, it was a good shock because they had put Jesse on this pedestal, which you can never put another man above you or under you. You shouldn't be judging somebody above or below you. We all have fallen. Even somebody like Jesse who's done great sins, he's not below us in the sense that he's still another man, but I do believe that he is enveloped by evil right now, and that I don't know how much of Jesse himself is left in there and how much we're dealing with just evil. I think a lot of it is evil right now. So that's just my impression, knowing Jesse for 30 years and what I've gone through with him. All right. Okay, good. Skip is talking to someone. Good for you. You guys are talking to each other. Jettison, Jesse has perfect peace walking away from that accident without checking on the people. That's a weird way to see that, Jettison. I think your mind is being jettisoned a little bit here. Because perfect peace is one of those Jesse phrases that he uses to make people think that he is on a certain level that he isn't. Now, there's a time to like be cool and walk away like Clint Eastwood. Like, I just fired up the bad guys and now I'm going to smoke a cigarette or eat my ham sandwich as I walk away. But when people are possibly hurt in an accident and you just don't care and you walk away, that's called perfect peace. You've got to be really in the tank for Jesse to believe something like that. That's really maybe you're joking. I hope you're joking, Jettison. Wow. I can tell you something about Jesse that I found out. My opinion, he doesn't really care about other people. It's all about him. Even somebody within Bond, deeply within Bond, told me that. They found that out after a long time. It's all about him. Didn't give a rip about other people. Okay, so a few more. It's hard. Okay, a few more. Sorry. Trump is demonized. Yeah, he is. But he ain't perfect either. Fabian, Trump telling us poison. Oh, here we go. Poison death shots. Slow or quick are wonderful still. I agree. He's wrong about the death shots. Oop, did I say that? YouTube's got me so careful. Isn't that pathetic? One day, guys, I may have to send my show over to Rumble. I'm already on Rumble, rumble.com. I may have to switch there at some point, especially if I want to deal with the shots, okay? And anything like that. There is so much evil going on. And Fabian's right about the massive evil that's going on there. And we haven't even talked about that yet. So hopefully that's one thing I'm going to be able to segue into because, again, I've told my story here. I think that part is kind of coming to an end. I can help whatever in the background or whatever I'm going to do. But I don't think obviously don't need to keep telling my story. But I do want to bring people on who have stories to tell about certain things. If it's about this, that's fine. If it's about something else like the shots, that's really important. That's good. I want to help bring the country together. And I don't know if we can save America. I don't know if anybody knows that. It may not be in the cards. We may be in the end game, end days, as people like Fabian have mentioned. That very well may be. But whatever it is, I do know that we can do better than we're doing now. We can love each other the right way. Expose the evil that needs to be exposed and build our communities. I really want to start doing that. I think I'm going to start doing hopefully some interviews and things very soon about how we can build ourselves and our lives up and build up our communities, become more independent of the crazy system that we're involved in right now. We're going to need that just for physical survival, maybe, but other things too. So we really have to do more and more in that. And I don't want to I want to be able to move into that as much as possible and start really dealing with how we can become more independent of this evil system that we're under and how we can become closer to God as well. So I really want to help do that as much as I can. Missed question from Bella, she says. Good, because I've missed a lot of questions. What was Jesse's routine when living in the Bond house? Did he cook or clean? Did he depend on other members of the house to help? Yeah, I don't think he probably did very much cooking or cleaning, and he had other people do that. Robert, who used to be the house manager, was on here last week going off on Jesse. Basically said he he treated him like a slave. So I don't know. I've never seen Jesse. Jesse doesn't really like to do a lot of physical labor. Um, so he doesn't do a lot of, I haven't seen him do much of that. I haven't seen much of that. So mostly other people doing the cooking and cleaning, I would say. Bella K. All right. Mal says, can you give some details on how Jesse would arrange your encounters to let those who don't believe you? Well, to keep it simple, because I've never gotten graphic with this stuff and I never will. I have a family and I'm just not going to go there. No way. But just to keep it simple, so you kind of have some understanding. I lived in the same house to Jesse. There was a time where I had a room adjacent to Jesse with an inner door. Okay. I worked with Jesse, would go talk to him in his office very often with doors shut at the bond building. Okay. And then I did somewhat, to some extent, this is how it started, by traveling with Jesse some, as people are still doing. I'm not claiming that Jesse's having something going on with every guy that's traveling with him, although I'd be a little bit concerned to be in a hotel room with this guy, sleeping in the same, even two beds, just being in the same hotel room with him overnight. I wouldn't do it, obviously. So yeah, this stuff started in a hotel room in Washington, D.C., or actually in Virginia near Washington, D.C. We're at an event way back. I believe 2005 is where I believe it started. So yeah, there's different places there that were done. It could be done fairly easy. And Jesse, don't ask me, about, there's no pictures that I'm aware of or recordings that I know of or things like that. That it just doesn't happen in that way. I wasn't trying to get him at that point. And Jesse was very careful about stuff, as was I. I was pretty paranoid too about being very, very secretive and stuff. And we knew about, we knew stuff about the internet back then. And Edward Snowden was out there telling us all about the NSA, and we knew all about that stuff. So we weren't, idiots. And Jesse always was like that. He bragged about that even back in his days where he supposedly was quite the sex swinger or whatever. He said even back then that he wouldn't put, information out there that people could easily get. So hopefully that answered your question, Mal. Any other questions? I'm just going to scan a little bit and I won't go too much longer. We're almost at an hour and a half point. There's not a need to really go a lot further. So, and again, if there's stuff that you might want me to deal with in future stuff, I think I've told you what I can tell you about Jesse pretty much at this point. So, but if you have something you want to know, or if there's other stuff that you want me to do, and I think I'm going to be starting to do more interviews where I interview other people and find out their stories about major corruption that's going on that can help everybody. It may be a local issue, but it might be something that people could understand in their own area that would give them a lot of help. Poor Chris had to take the blame for liking the gay porn. I didn't know that. He had to take the fall for that, maybe. That's sad if that had happened. That would be sad. That girl says, God bless you, Patrick. Thank you, that girl. I'm not going to get into the Trump fight right now. You guys can have that on another thing. We're not doing a Trump fight today. Yeah, gay porn on Twitter and stuff like that. I didn't know much about that when it happened, but that probably was a early warning sign of what Jesse was up to. Okay, you guys are having a fight about Trump. So I guess, okay, you guys can... Cindy Jones says, didn't you hear Jesse doesn't know much about social media? Okay, I'm going to scan. Let me go to the end here to make sure I didn't miss anything. Gennaro, right on. I haven't seen Gennaro for a while. I'm glad you're here. Right on, Gennaro. Gennaro's a good dude. I know Gennaro. Sonoma Digital's here. Did Jesse really have a janitorial business, Patrick? That's a good question. Some people don't believe that. He did have a janitorial business supposedly called Perfect Maintenance way back in the day. And supposedly he said he built it up to having like 7 employees. I think he said Mexicans or something working for him. I don't know. It's hard to say. I mean, Jesse knows I could see him doing that. I mean, he has like 7 employees at Bond. Why couldn't he do that with a janitorial service, getting the other people to do the work? He's good at getting other people to do the work. So I don't see why he couldn't have had. Jesse doesn't know how to run a business that well. Technically, he always has people kind of doing it for him to some extent. But by now, he's probably made a pretty good mess of his business in terms of keeping it organized at this point. But yeah, he knows enough to get people to do stuff for him. That's for sure. He's got a personality that will get that knows how to do that and get people to work for him. So I think it's possible. Okay, any other ones that I'm missing here? Patrick, can you show some success stories from Jesse and Bond helping men start businesses? Well, okay. I'll wind up here pretty much after that, I think. We did have an entrepreneur program, so to speak. It pretty much consisted of guys meeting, I don't know, what was it, once a month or something like that. And some guys would meet at the Bond building and we'd talk about our businesses and what we were doing that week with our business or whatever. To me, it never got really all that deep as far as helping people really with the nuts and bolts of starting and running a business properly. Honestly, I don't think Jesse himself really knew how to do it that well. And he didn't bring in other people to really explain it that well, to really get people into the nuts and bolts of how to properly run a business. That's the way I saw it. Some of the other stuff that we had going on was we had other stuff going on too. We had a Bond program, like a Bond home for boys, which was called the Bond Home for Young Men later. We had some people that went through it, and we had some stuff going on, but nothing really all that serious. There was a lot of stuff that Jesse would blow up, just like we never really had Bond chapters, really any serious chapters. They were just kind of, you'd have somebody in another city and they were doing something and they started something a little bit, and that was called a Bond chapter kind of thing. It was like a lot of cotton candy, a lot of stuff that really wasn't real and just kind of made up. Our school, kind of a joke. It was kind of a glorified babysitter place, really. My son was involved, so I know about what I speak. My wife was involved and did more work on that school than anybody, much more than Jesse did, or anybody. She was one of the few that really, really, that school wouldn't have done anything without her. Kelly was a teacher at that school too, who later became the producer at Fallen State. Kelly did a great job. She did all she could. She worked hard, and we had some volunteers. David, a guy that helped guys learn how to do hammering and the beginning of trades and things like that. We had a guy named Dr. Singh, who was a very nice man, who was like a martial arts expert and knows Qigong, and he's a healer also, a cool guy. And I've been to he's helped me with shoulder and things like that stuff. He was like he would come like every week or whatever it was and take the kids and go somewhere with them and help them do martial arts and stuff. And he was like, really did it. He really took it seriously, what he was doing. So yeah, there were guys there that really helped out and women there that did stuff, but the school never was anywhere near what it should have been. Nothing like it. It was really not more than a handful of students at any given time. It's sad because Jesse was always trying to make stuff look bigger than it was instead of just making it big to begin with. But in order to have something big, you have to be willing to work with other people, which we never worked with other people very well. And you have to be willing to be open about yourself, about your finances, about your the way that you do some of the stuff that you do. You have to have a certain openness if you want to grow and you want to work with people and do something great. But I think Jesse was more interested in keeping his own little fiefdom that was closed off so that he kind of had total control over it. He'd rather control a small empire by himself than to share a larger empire, for lack of a better word. Does that make sense? I hope so. Anyway, I think I didn't get to everything I wanted to. Nearly as much. I didn't get to all of your guys' stuff. I think I dealt with separating the man from the message, basically saying there is no separation really in the end. If you're a true Christian, then you are the message. You're an embodiment, like Gandhi talked about. Be the change you want to see. Be the be the be the Christian that you talk about. Be the thing. Don't be a scribe or a Pharisee and just be. Jesus ripped these people apart. Rip these people apart because they were just playing. They were pretending to be something they weren't. And unfortunately, that's a lot of what Jesse did. And he's very good at fooling people, and he's very good even to this day. He ain't gonna go down just because all this stuff's coming out. Just don't think that he doesn't have the shame to walk away. I said that at the beginning of the show. I'm going to say it again to end it here. He's not going to walk away on his own. So if you think if you have something to say that needs to be said to expose some evil, you need to be doing it, because all hands on deck as far as I'm concerned. It shouldn't be just a few people saying something. I did a lot of wrong, but I've also had to take a lot of hits too for being one of the people that spoke out. So it's better if people come forward and kind of spread the pain a little bit. And it's also makes each story more powerful if something else comes out of wrongdoing of any kind. If there's wrongdoing, it should be exposed. It shouldn't be somebody's protected because you think they're your father figure or something. You've got a problem if that's what you think. All right. Yeah, you said Bella K, Jesse, all talk, no work, classic con man. Yeah, it really is kind of a con, though, unfortunately. Again, there were things that were good in there. There were truths that were told. A lot of them came from Roy Masters. There were truths in there. Some people that didn't stick around too long and just kind of culled what they could out of it. I think it has to do with the kind of person you are. If you're sincere and you want help, you can get help through the devil. For instance, Louis Farrakhan shown a lot of black people, don't be taking this shot. He probably saved a lot of black lives that way. Louis Farrakhan is next to the devil, in my opinion, but he saved a lot of black lives probably. Joe Biden is next to the devil. He's an evil man, but he's helped wake people up, right? If it wasn't for Joe Biden, a lot of people right now who are waking up and starting to take their country back wouldn't be taking their country back if it wasn't for such a serious situation. If they had Trump in and they thought everything was fine, that's when people don't do anything. People do stuff when somebody like Obama was in power, and then we had the what do you call that thing that they did against Obama when Obama was in there? The movement. What was that movement? Somebody can tell me. I can't remember the name of it, but there's a movement that was started when Obama was in his, I think, second term around 2010, 2011, and people woke up. So evil can wake you up too. God will wake you up in all sorts of ways. If God wants to wake you up, he'll use whoever he wants to wake you up. So I wouldn't be too focused on who the person is who you want to give all your credit to. I would give your credit to God. And God works through his son, Jesus Christ, and the Holy Spirit. And somehow they work together as a unit. They're the ones doing the work. They're the ones that the preacher should be pointing towards. Even in the Bible, it says, don't call any man teacher. Don't call a man teacher. Don't put a man above you. Don't get your information from another person. Don't get your way of thinking and the way of being from another person. Allow God to work through you. God is working with me. He's working with my family. He worked with me to overcome these thoughts that I was having. Jesse didn't help me in the end. I had to go to God directly, right? I had to pray and ask for help with that stuff. And thank God he did. Thank God. And in the end, that's who helps you. So whoever human being that you're into and you're part of their tribe or whatever, do what you want for entertainment, but when your soul is at stake, be very, very careful. If I can leave you with anything tonight, be very careful. Guard your soul. Know that it's God who saves through his son. It's not a man. It's not me. It's not Jesse, not Roy Masters. Some people can teach you some stuff that's good, but no man is going to save you. That's not what we do. We don't have that ability to do that. So I hope that you at least get that. And I think I have said enough. I've definitely said enough. I don't need this dang thing. You can't read too much on a show anyway. People want to see real, right? So I'm giving you as real as I can do. And those of you who believe what we've said, believe you probably didn't need all that much. You either knew us already, or you could see that I was telling the truth. You could see that Samuel, Martin, or whoever was talking to you could see the truth in that. You can usually tell. You don't need too much. And if you can't, you can't. There's nothing I can do for you. That's something between you and the Holy Spirit. I can't give you every little ounce of whatever secret photos you want or video or whatever, even though you don't ask for Jesse for the same anything. You don't ask for him for anything. You just are afraid to go to him to ask him anything because you know he won't answer you, or he'll throw it back on you and say, "Why are you asking that? Are you homosexual?" You know, that kind of stuff. Are you guys going to really keep playing that game where you allow this man to never answer any of your questions? I found out when I first approached this guy about what he was doing, I found out that he was not able or willing to answer anything about himself. That's what you know. Start asking this guy about himself and get him to answer your questions. Then you'll have something. But I almost guarantee you, he's not going to answer nothing. He will not answer anything until he's pretty much forced to do it. Okay. Um, yeah, someone says people are talking about audit or IRS or whatnot. Um, yeah, I mean, I would check into this stuff. I wouldn't take Jesse's word for anything. There's no oversight going on there. I'm just telling you guys that from the get-go. There's no oversight. I was there. I would know. Trust me, I would know. And you shouldn't be able to get away with stuff like that besides the sexual stuff. And I've always said the sexual stuff was very important, but in some ways it's not the main story. The main story is a con job from the get-go. And a con man will get you in many different ways. And there's lots of ways to get people. You know, there's professional services that are done, that are things are being done through a counselor. There's financial stuff. There's getting people to get angry subtly at another race or another gender or something like that. There's all sorts of ways to get people. But the main thing is know that there's a con going on. And if you don't see it, you don't see it. I'm not trying to force you to see something that isn't there. But if you've already seen something and you have an inkling that something is going on and something didn't sit well, I just want to put my extra stamp on there saying, I know what you're going through. Just keep your eyes open. Just keep your eyes open. Expose things. We're not supposed to sit back and we don't judge. We don't judge. No, we judge righteously and we expose evil. We don't hate the people, but we hate the sin and we expose. So that's about all I can tell you guys. I don't know where I'm going with this, other than I believe I am going to start more interviews. You're probably going to see me doing more kinds of things. So I think I just lost you guys for a minute, but I'm just saying, when breaking news comes, I may be dealing with that here. Probably. Okay. I think I'm starting to lose you guys anyway, so I'm going to sign off. I'm not even going to do music to go out because I'm starting to lose you guys. So thank you so much for everything you've done along the way. Stay in touch with me. Go to oldschoolus.com, oldschoolus.com. Reach me at info@oldschoolus.com. If you need to reach me about anything, you need to let me know anything, info@oldschoolus.com. And we'll talk more beyond that if we need to. But I also may need to be moving to Rumble fairly soon. I'm already there, but I may start moving my live streams to Rumble soon because I can only deal with so much stuff on this channel. So I'll let you guys know. I'll post stuff here and tell you, hey, here I am over on Rumble. You know, go get me over here kind of thing. Okay. Does that make sense? All right. Anyway, that's enough for me tonight. God bless you guys. I wish you guys the best. I wish Jesse the best and whatever's going to work out with him. Again, I think he's pretty much possessed of evil at this point. But if God wants to reach him, hey, he reached Paul. He knocked him between the eyes. He can knock Jesse between the eyes if he wants to. I don't know what God wants to do with Jesse, but if I was Jesse, I would be getting with God as soon as possible. I don't think Jesse fears God. And the fear of God is the beginning of wisdom. I recommend, Jesse, that you start to fear God. Thank you so much, you guys. And we'll see you when we see you. Thanks again for all your support.